Okay. Okay, everybody. Hi, and welcome to what almost is a state of readiness, but not quite. I'll be right there with you. And usually I find this to be home. The egoic lotus is a nice place to refer to. And generally, you know you're home when you can see the egoic lotus, right? Hi. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to be able to hear most of what everybody may say, because we have you coming through a speaker. It's not a wonderful speaker, but it's okay. It's on one of these projectors, and if everybody will just speak slowly and at a reasonable volume, then we will. Everything should come in on a better quality. Okay. So I'd just like to welcome you. I just want to say that we're backed up here by BL and Michael and Tuya. And then there's another 30-something of us here. And nice to see some of you again. There's so many things that can be covered in this very large subject that we are beginning to deal with. I mean, in some way, we definitely want the heart and soul of the new group of world servers, and we want to learn how to become true members of that serving group. In other ways, we want the occultism of what they do and the specifics of their tasks, so that when, as in this particular case, only one paragraph is given to it, I kind of went on a hunt, and basically I found, maybe someone can find some more, that the new group of world servers is the Ajna center of Sanat Kumara, at least I would say with Sanat Kumara operating on this planet. Like I say, there is a global Shambhala, and take a look at all these globes you've got here. See, there's a chain Shambhala, and finally the greatest of all Shambhalas with respect to the planetary scheme is a scheme Shambhala. And the DK doesn't do a lot of differentiating between these, but it just turns out to be necessary. Yes, Ellen, you have a thought. Yes.
Yes, I have a thought.
Yes, go ahead.
Because in Cosmic Fire, there is reference where he said that Shambhala is on the highest physical impulse.
Yeah, he does say that, but he does say that, and basically we're looking at the sea of fire. We're looking at the Great Council.
And as you know,
Yeah.
Kumara is living in Shambhala.
Yes.
To put it simply.
See, there's so many emanations of the planetary logos. Every chain is an emanation of the planetary logos. There are beings that rule these chains, and they are called chain lords. And then with the little circles, there's either 7 of them and maybe 3 that are not drawn, maybe 10. There are globe lords, and they're all emanations of this great being that we call the planetary logos. And so it just became very obvious to me when I read, I think it was page 873 of Cosmic Fire, about the 3 Buddhas of activity on our planet. then a higher chain correspondence of the three Buddhas of activity, and a still higher scheme correspondence of the three Buddhas of activity.
When you want to go as high as you are.
Yeah. So here's the question. Is Sanat Kumara confined to our globe? I mean, obviously that's his concentration, but Shambhala is not really confined to our globe. Not really. Yeah. Yes.
We have humanity as an Ajna
Yes.
representing and other aspect of the throat.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, I'm aware of that. And basically that's what we're going to look at here. Basically, as far as I can see, the one reference where it deals with that. So I'm going to ask you a question then. See, our particular, gosh, did I crash all that out of the way? I hope I did not. Let's see here. Is this, what is this?
I'm sorry, Michael. Do you hear me?
Yes, dear, I do.
Those who are, yes, Elena, even though you have a very good voice, but it is much harder to hear. So could you do something with the mic so that
Mike is
people would
almost ready.
hear on this side?
Helena, we just have the kind of setup we have. If somebody wants to pull this table and microphone a little bit closer to the group with great care.
Or then who is speaking could go towards the mic.
Say, yeah, bring the big mic close. Yeah, bring the table and the mic closer to the group. See? I'm sorry?
It's safer if whoever is speaking come to the mic.
No, I don't want to do that. No, just pull it closer.
Fine.
You know, when people start coming to microphones, they never let go. Yeah, it's just a few feet. That's all. Nothing much. There you go. Now, yes, do keep the pedestal with the microphone. It's helpful. Okay, we'll do the best we can under the circumstances. Now, I want to let's see. I want to find I want to find that big compilation that Bill Roach, 220 pages compilation on the new group of world servers. And let's see here. And this is, okay. Just bear with me here for a second, please. And, you know, however, if somebody wants to actually remind me what I'm looking for, I wouldn't mind. It's always helpful. As you get caught on a search, you ask yourself, what am I trying to find? Okay. So let's see. Here we are. Yes, the founding of the new group of world servers. And maybe if I look up the word Ajna, I will find it, and maybe not. I maybe have to look up the compilation. Okay, so let's try again. One, and that's it. That's pretty much the one paragraph. He opens up. Now, listen, since you are students of occultism, right? You are, right? Spiritual occultism, and you have so little information to go on, what would you do in this case?
Can you repeat the question?
That's it. Oh, repeat the question. You got one paragraph. Let me read it.
Yes.
The Ajna center of the Lord of the world is just beginning
I put the reference in my notes.
to express itself in a recognizable manner through the new group of world servers.
And it was from 1946.
Yes,
When
yes.
it started.
Okay, well, let's just get the main idea here. This immediate group between hierarchy and humanity is a carrier of energy which makes the plan possible. The plan of which the hierarchy is the custodian. This plan implements the purpose, and later, when the new group of world servers is organized, maybe not quite yet, and is recognized as a living organism, which it isn't yet recognized as, it will definitely receive energy from Shambhala. So that's telling us a lot about the Buddha and the replacement factor of the new group of world servers substituting for the Buddha, and it may have already begun.
Now,
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Okay. The plan implements the purpose, and later, when the new group of world servers is organized and recognized as a living organism, it will definitely receive energy from Shambhala in a direct reception from the hierarchy. This information is, I realize, to all people but Elena Dramcini, of little immediate importance. And yet, but towards the end of the century, it will be found explanatory of much. I sometimes think we're not quite as far along as Master DK hoped we would be. So, Eleanor, what would you like to say in this regard?
Anyway, what I want to say as a principle, not only in this reference, that it is always a good idea when one is looking, like in this case for Ajna, to find all the references which are related to that Ajna. And only then one can come to a better judgment, not to make a judgment on just one reference. Yes, this is my principle how I work.
Yeah. How many references have you found in this particular case and where regarding the action center of Sanat Kumara?
Well, the major references are obviously, I even consult secret doctrine about when I am to high levels of things, okay?
Yeah.
Because she's bringing a lot of information about, I on Ajna, I have about 20 pages of notes.
Yes, yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So I can't tell you, but there are a number of books involved, like Mind Magic, okay?
Yes.
Obviously, Cosmic Fire, as a primary, these are references, but this is the way I work, okay?
Yes. Now, the thing is here, what Ella has just offered is the hints that we need. I have to keep on switching back and forth the microphones. I'm sorry. I use a different microphone for the group out here, and then a different one for myself. You don't have much at all on Sanat Kumara. Sanat Kumara is developing as a center. However, the more you know about how the Ajna Center works in the human being, then you can extend by analogy and the law of correspondences the same idea to Sanat. Kumara, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do when we study this particular approach. Yeah. So basically, from this paragraph, what do we gather? That it's just beginning. Well, you would expect it. Now think of it. What degree initiate, in a planetary sense, is our planetary logos? Now, maybe you have an idea about yourself too, Takes a long time to go between the first and second initiation for most people. And then the second, third, and fourth can even be taken in the same life. And he says, or the next, and usually that is the case. Just imagine, if you're entering the stream and you're being borne along by the current of the ashram, you're very close to the crucifixion. Just get out of the water and mount the cross. It's easy. So, okay. So anyway, the idea here is that some initiations have a long space between them and some don't. And then when we start to deal with the higher initiations, they really start to expand. So thousands of years might be involved. The Lord Maitreya was head of the spiritual hierarchy ever since about 500 BC, before his next appearance. And in order to be head of the hierarchy, you pretty well figure he's got to be a fifth degree initiate. From the time in Palestine 2,000 years ago till the time he takes the seventh initiation, he's going to be dealing with the sixth. And that's going to last about 4,000 years. Already 2,000 years. So it begins to expand. It's like an hourglass. See? This takes a long time in the beginning, then whoosh, and then expanding outward again until very big spans of time are involved in the later initiations when you become a higher being. Now, what did you want to add, Elena?
Well, as you brought this issue here, I'm just going to say that in Bible he enacted basically two initiation, the ascension, which is the one of them, and then together with Jesus on the cross, overshadowing, Jesus took the fourth and he took the sixth.
Yes, and what DK actually says, it's very interesting. There are two ascensions. The first ascension is another name for the sixth initiation.
That's it.
The second ascension, he never calls it that, but you can pretty well figure it out. It takes you to the Council of Shambhala, where you ascend to the place where you can sit at the right hand of the Father, as it were. See what I mean? So those are, mysterious things. He disappeared in a cloud and it took him up and all that. This is after, we don't know, is this Christ appearing in the body, in the transfigured body of Jesus? It looks like it, because he's doing things that just Jesus couldn't do yet. Not yet. Okay, so Asha, you have a...
At what initiation does time, space to exist the way we know it?
Okay, the question is, because we're never sure about our microphone system, in what initiation do time and space disappear as we know them, or are no longer as we know them? It all begins with the third initiation. when the mystery of time and space and their illusory nature um, are made manifest to the consciousness of the individual. And you see a lot of these very advanced third-ray philosophers struggling with this issue. You look at Leibniz, and maybe Newton to a certain extent, people who are theologians, but they're very, very high. Deal with Spinoza. They're on the third ray, and they're thinking their way through the illusion of time and space. However, it just goes on and on and on. Sorry, it's just a condition. Let's just say that time and space is a huge mystery, and in some ways, the great being is called space itself. So it depends on how you use words. You look at people thinking about the absolute, and they call it space. And you open up Manly Hall's book. Well, it's not space as we know it. And he has a black page. This is black. And he says, okay, there's no point on it. There's nothing, just nothing. And then later he puts a point and starts to develop the universe. But I would say this, that the mystery of the many and the one, and of the one and the many, begins to be conquered at the third initiation. And it's no easy thing to conquer that illusion. One of the great philosophers who applied himself to this and was getting quite close, I thought, was Immanuel Kant. He basically said, look, it's not real. Everything you're looking at here are categories of consciousness. Just categories of it's what your consciousness does to reality, not what reality really is. So I would say that from the time you take the first solar initiation, which is the third degree, you are already on the path to resolving the issue of time and space. And there are 7 mantrams in the Tibetan books. They occur a number of times, and they all deal with the resolution of time and space on the 7 different rays. And I can, I just, what I would do is just show you more or less where you can find that and ponder and ponder and ponder, because there's nothing else to do about that. Okay, so this is these 7 injunctions, Esoteric Psychology, Volume 1. You find them in a few different places, and these 7 together constitute the beginning of the overcoming of time and space along the 7 different ray lines. So I would strongly advise, studying these things. And in a way, when we have that webinar that we call Identify as Being, we are tackling this problem, the overcoming of the illusion of time and space. Well, that's another place. See, in other words, you might find it there too, or no, maybe not. No, this is something different. So the 7 keys and the 7 ray methods, page 416, Esoteric Psychology, volume 1, and there are about 3 other places where you can find it. Just look up the wonderful mantram which shows the person who has overcome the illusion. That person says, naught is but me. So just look up naught is but me, which is, if you're not going to get the average religious person saying that, that will give you the 3 or 4 places that these 7 mantrams are listed. But I warn you and myself that it takes a lot of work to penetrate the usual habits of mind and of consciousness which throw us right back into illusion before we even think about it. So that's the issue. How to find the illusions of your mind. Now, at first, we find our glamours. We exaggerate, we minimize, we want this too much, we want that not enough. It's all desire. But later, we say, wait a second, my mind is playing tricks on me, and I better see through that. See, okay? So I love these 7 great statements. And of course, I love the second one maybe the most because it's so relevant to so many students. And it's so profound, and people say, okay, well, I want to know a bunch of stuff. Well, look, yeah, but if you just knew what's in this little mantram, you would know more than all the individual items of knowledge that we collect. That's all I can say. I've been a collector of knowledge forever, but then I wake up and I say, right there, let all the life be drawn to the center and enter thus into the heart of love divine, and from that point of sentient life, let the soul realize the consciousness of God. And then comes the punchline, let the word go forth, reverberating through the silence, naught is but me. And that's just so profound. And every one of them is profound. The DK says, why am I including the names of all these Ray Lords? Why should I do that? And basically he says, so you can find yourself. You'll read the name of a Ray Lord and it'll have a resonance with you. And you will know something about your major race.
Just a thought, I never pondered about that thought. But what if that me, not but me, is the absolute?
In one way, it is. In another way, it is several different collections. It is absolute infinity, and it is also the identity of the universal logos. It's like saying, I am the universal logos, and everything in this universe is myself. So we can't say too much about the absolute. I don't know if the story is true or not, but they say that in the old days, if you talked about the absolute, they would put you to death. So, if I was like a cat who had 9 lives, that'd be pretty good. But, people talk about it these days. Of course, you can't really talk about the absolute in any profoundly meaningful way, except to say that that's all there is. That's it. And it never had a beginning and never an end and never any other, and it never came out of anything and it's never going anywhere, and it just puts your mind upside down and will help you overcome illusion. And the illusion especially. See, look, I don't know how I got on this, but this is dangerous. Look, the perceiver, there's only one perceiver that is not limited. All other perceivers are limited, whether in the universe or outside the universe, which has disappeared in a great Mahapralaya. Now, when a limited perceiver perceives the whole, the result is a limitation. And so you never get the truth of it. You just get a part of it. And even our universe is just the tiniest, tiniest, tiniest part of the whole thing, which you would call absolute infinity. So we have to work our way out of a very narrow perception, which gives us results which are illusory because we're so small. The small perceiver perceives illusion. The largest possible perceiver does not. And who and what is the largest possible perceiver? It is the absolute deity in a post-universal state. And, come to that other class and we'll deal with those things. Obviously, it's one of my favorite subjects, but I don't dare to stay on it for too long, because right now we're talking about this center in Sanat Kumara, who is a projection of the planetary logos. And I have a few things about it, which are my own kind of little gatherings here and there. Okay, so let's just ask the group. And by the way, the 40 of you out there, and I do certainly want to welcome you. You can raise your hand, and if you think you know the answer to something and you want to share it, then we can do that too. What are the functions of the Ajna Center in man? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to analogize from man to Sanat Kumara, or to any great being, because he says the great interpretive law of the universe is the law of analogy. So never drop that. And that's why he says that the fourth ray mind is so important in his work, Master DK, because he's always emphasizing analogy. And analogy is the great fourth ray ability, one of them anyway. So what can we say about Man's Ajna Center? Let's just briefly, what can we say about it? What would you like to say about it? When does it really, several times, by the way, come into prominence? Not just once. When does the Ajna Center really come into prominence? Remember, it's very, in one way, it's very Sagittarian. Like if you read all the things that the Ajna Center can do, it creates a straight line. So, when you are integrating your personality, really integrating your personality, this is the center, the Ajna Center is the center you use. Now, when we attack glamour, what are we doing? He's given us some occult exercises. Go out there on the astral plane and attack this glamour. What are we doing? Using, if you're a unicorn, and of course it might create some difficulty with the spatial arrangement, but it's a good back scratcher. If you're a unicorn here, it's a weapon and it's a method of detection, isn't it? So the Ajna Center finds things that need to be poofed, dissipated. That's what we do with glamour. It also um, uh, empowers. The initiate has the unicorn extended Ajna Center. Now, one lady I talked to said, look, it's not just the Ajna Center, there's another center up here, and that's where the horn is really coming out of. And she said like this. She was the last living disciple in the DK group. But anyway, out of the forehead in general is coming this instrument that is an outgrowth of the Ajna Center. So it's not just when you're integrating your personality. Where do you think, some of you know this, where do you think the Ajna Center would become prominent in the initiatory process? Most, in other words, quite prominent, and stay that way. Stay that way. Because you see, the Kundalini, we're taught, does not necessarily just rise from the base to the top. It comes down again, like this. See? Like this. And then it becomes a tremendous instrument. So what initiation at first is involved in nurturing the Ajna Center? Some of you know, I can tell by the look on your face, and some of you have that other look. So it's the...
Behind this question, and I'm not going to answer it directly, is the reason why we don't have the position where Ajna is found in the way of subplanes.
In the
Subplanes.
yeah. I figure it's the highest subplane.
This is part of it.
There might be a mystery there.
Yes.
You remember that see, how many subplanes are there? So I'm going to point to something now, okay? I mean, everything leads to everything else, so it doesn't make any difference. How many subplanes are there on the cosmic physical plane?
7 by 7.
How many?
49.
In a way, there are actually 343.
Yeah, because if you divide each subplane further into 7,
yeah,
that's when you arrive at that number.
343. And on one of those subs, I think the Ajna Center will be found.
There you are.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
This is the beginning of solving or answering these questions.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. That's where it's going to be found. But look, it's obvious, and I know that Ella knows because she's been studying the subject. But I just want to say that the third initiation is the key to the real initiatory development of the Ajna Center. Now, what ray or rays usually rule the Ajna Center in the human being? Ray or rays usually rule. I mean, the Ajna Center is amazing because actually, when you start to look at it, it's got all 7 rays. It's this amazing thing. But at first, the 5th ray is the ray that for most people rules the Ajna Center. Now, if obviously I'm doing this with the intention of extending it to Sanat Kumara, right? And am I justified in doing that? Yeah, I think so. So if I turn to page 517 In esoteric astrology, no, that's esoteric healing. I went down too far. Esoteric astrology. And I see how it is for the average man and how it is for the advanced human being. So you see, says the Tibetan, that the fifth ray, remember, man is very interesting. Like Eleanor pointed out, man is the throat and man is the Ajna center. The higher type of human being is the Ajna center, the new group of world servers. But it's always the fifth ray until, and what planet is of the fifth ray ruling? It says here, it's Venus. So, right away, hey, new group of world servers is taking a lot of inspiration from Venus. What sign of the zodiac rules the new group of world servers? Some of you know this, and some can find out. It is it's Taurus. It's Taurus. And what is the first ruler of Taurus? Venus. So a new group of world servers is ruled by Taurus, which is ruled preliminarily by Venus, through which passes the fifth ray of light. Now, the most luminous souls in humanity are second ray souls. But the most luminous ray lord is the fifth ray lord. So when you look out there in the sky and you look at Venus, wow, it's brighter than any star around, brighter than Sirius, not brighter than the moon is so close, of course, but that fifth ray is the ray of luminosity. So right out of this Ajna center comes this beam of light which detects what has to be changed, enters into what has to be changed, dissipates and destroys what has to be changed, and clears a pathway of light. It's like Moses going through the Red Sea, only different elements. You've seen that. I think that was one of the best moments in the Ten Commandments, which is just an awful movie. Everybody's running around in, well, I don't know, those Egyptians wouldn't be caught dead in what Hollywood was wearing. But it was, I saw it when I was 11 years old, and I said, with my 11-year-old judgment, wow, But later I saw it again, and I just couldn't believe the abysmal acting and the worst costumes. Anyway, when they parted the Red Sea, that was pretty effective, early effects. And this Ajna Center, clears the way of glamour and other obstacles that you might have to deal. Now, look, Sanat Kumara, let's say Sanat Kumara is in a way the planetary logos, in a way. It says so many things about Sanat Kumara, it just drives you crazy. Is it the personality of the logos? Is it the soul and personality together? Is it the soul of the planetary logos? Just what is it? Sanat Kumara. And it is an emanation of the planetary logos. Now, what kind of initiations is Sanat Kumara undertaking? Now, look, does any of you feel like a really independent soul? This is a trick question, so just pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. Does anybody feel like a independent soul? Okay. Well, basically, you are an emanation, and you're attached to that from which you emanated. And there was a seventh-ray lady, an artist, with a first-ray personality and probably a fourth-ray mind, I guess, who fell victim to the glamour of the independent soul. And DK explained that to her. He says, Helen Freeman was her name. There is no independent soul. And right now you're just asserting your first-rate personality and you think it's your soul. See, there's so many traps that you can fall into, but basically this connectedness that we all have, we're not going to escape that. We can't say, I'm a nuclear billiard ball here, like the old billiard ball idea of atoms colliding with each other. That's not what an atom is anymore, is it? I mean, the Greeks were ahead on that, but the guy who, philosopher, scientific, natural philosopher who came up with that idea, he committed suicide. I don't know. He fell into a kind of despair and materialism and all that kind of thing. That's not what an atom is. All these things are ultimately interconnected, and so are we. We're all part of something greater, and lesser things are part of us. And we're all of them anyway, all of them. So, the fifth ray is coming out of here, right? Now, has Sanat Kumara taken his third initiation? Oh, then I'll ask you this, because it's a trick question again. Has the planetary logos taken his third initiation? No.
But cosmic initiation he must have taken.
He's taken one cosmic initiation, only one. And it will be millions of years at the judgment day, in my view, see you there, that there will be, by the planetary logos, a taking of the second cosmic initiation. Now, there's a place in the, DK gets very practical in the psychology kind of thing. He says, look, our planetary logos is in the position of moving the energy of his sacral center to his solar plexus center. And when that is completed, X percentage of sex, crime, and violence will disappear. Interesting. Obviously, if you're emphasizing the sacral center all the time, you're getting these very unpleasant outworkings. So the solar plexus is extremely important when it comes to taking the second cosmic initiation. Now, how is it possible that our planetary logos has not yet even taken the second initiation, which would put him on the path to the greater ashram, and yet we're undergoing the crucifixion on this planet? How is that possible? And if you turn to page 384 in your Cosmic Fire book, you will see that there are two different kinds of initiations going on in the upper layers of our planet. Now, why is this important? Because, we're talking about the Ajna center of Sanat Kumara. Now, if you're a human being, and most in this room are, would you say, well, look, not many of us have taken the third initiation, frankly. I always tell my friends, if you want to be honest, subtract 1. If you want to be really truthful, subtract 2. Initiations. I mean, I kind of joke about that, but you know how people are in a hurry and they want to get there and they inflate their status. You know how it goes. We've all been the victim of teachers who have inflated their status, and then they put you down because they do that. It's just crazy. Anyway, we're undergoing the crucifixion on the 4th globe of the 4th chain, and the crucifixion is what initiation?
4.
Number 4. What's that going to tell us? See? And yet only one cosmic initiation has been taken. What's that going to tell us? Okay, so I know I was going somewhere here, but where was I going?
8 something.
Oh, 384, that's where I was going. Thank you. This is one of my favorite pages. Here's our planetary God. Through our planet, our planetary logos is undergoing that which the mystics call the crucifixion, and he's midway upon the path of cosmic initiation. Okay, well, as Sanat Kumara he may be, because one chain after another, let me show you what I mean. One chain after another is the scene of a new initiation. Chain number 1, chain number 2, chain number 3. As a matter of fact, I really shouldn't say that because initiation comes in at a certain point. We have to build up the personality first. Anyway, in our chain, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th, Sanat Kumaric initiation is taking place. So that crucifixion that we are all going through is about Sanat Kumara. It's not a cosmic crucifixion. It is not a cosmic. There are 7 cosmic initiations for a planet. And we are going through a lesser form of initiation on this 4th globe. How long do we have to wait before Judgment Day? Well, if you listen to the heirs to Billy Graham and Jerry Falwell and all those guys, and Hal Lindsey, I remember I grew up when all of this was really a big deal. And maybe it is for some people if you go below the Mason-Dixon line in America, the sort of diaphragm of America. And he says, you're going to be driving along in your convertible, and all of a sudden, God is going to snatch you. And you've been raptured, and everybody else is going to hell. I mean, this has to be outstanding for a kindly, godlike attitude toward your fellow human beings. God is going to snatch you out of your red convertible, I was waiting for him to say, but you believe in Jesus, and so you're saved. And it is still, listen, as you probably realize, when I lived in these areas in the United States, because I was made to do it, because I had a lot to learn, I used to go to lunches where fundamentalist preachers were gathered. and I would express my point of view, which was the ageless wisdom point of view. Now, they were a very polite bunch, and they didn't say what they were thinking. Oh, listen, I've been saved more times than you know. I remember when we had 30 years ago a big festival in Australia at Collaroy Salvation Army by the side of the sea. And our dear colleague Ayla Laurikainen, they sniffed her out, and they knew she was into something ungodly. And so all of a sudden, out of nowhere, come 4 saviors who caught her and laid on the hands and started mumbling things to make sure her soul went to the right place. Ayla, however, did finish the convocation. More power to her. So maybe she wasn't quite saved. But you know what I mean? It's such a fixation. And I've been, in my life, I've pulled out my my unicorn horn, and I've wandered in to the fundamental circles, where I always have a good time anyway. And at the time that all of this was going on, I was directing an opera called Susanna, wonderful opera by Carlisle Floyd, and it's all about religious hypocrisy. And I recommended that the ministers come to see it, or at least come to see a rehearsal or listen to it. And some of them did, and at least one of them stayed my friend, you know. So it was all about the hypocrisy of the people who want to force you to do the things they cannot do. See, now I'm sure I've wandered off the mark, but anyway, look, the judgment day is not with us yet. How long do you think you have? How long does a round take? About, according to Blavatsky. We can start with the words plenty of time, and then we could go into something like 310 million years. Now, what if we're only in the 4th round here? What if the judgment day doesn't take place until the 5th round of our chain? Because every time you finish a chain, you have to rest, you know, and that takes about equally as long. We're talking tens of millions of years. Even if I'm incorrect about the big numbers, we're talking tens of millions of years before the second cosmic initiation is taken. When his throat center, look, if you're going to be a second degree initiate, what do you have? What is your distinguishing traits? There are 2 distinguishing traits for the second initiation. Maybe you could add a few more. Obviously, your heart center keeps on expanding, okay? But what else? See, what we're trying to do is, where is Sanat Kumara with his Ajna center? That's what we're looking for here. Spiritual intelligence and mental illumination. That's what you get at the second degree, especially if you're uncertain of the rays, you know. Spiritual intelligence, mental illumination. Obviously, with the Moria Federation and such esoteric schools, we try to nurture that, don't we? Nurture the spiritual intelligence and mental illumination. Sanat Kumara is not there yet. Obviously, you know, Lord of the world, fantastic, and all the rest. But from a cosmic perspective that we know practically nothing about, he's not there yet. Okay? Now, how long will it be before he can take or participate in the third cosmic initiation? A long time. And remember, look, here you are here, you know, those maps with the arrows, you are here. And there are 3 more chains through which you have to pass. And, you know, here's one, the Mercury chain, that's going to be the next. The Mars chain, by whatever name, that'll be after that. Unless we pull a rabbit out of the hat and do just like Venus did. Venus did 7 in 5. By the way, those numbers are not arbitrary numbers. You know what I mean? If you look at a piano, what do you have in an octave? You know, you have 7 white notes and 5 black keys. And if you look at planets, you have the same. 5 are the non-sacred planets, and 7 are the sacred planets. So this division of 7 and 5 is very important. So what I'm trying to say, Sanat Kumara, is at the beginning of the organization of the new group of world servers. It's just a preliminary attempt. Pretty good, isn't it? Pretty good, yes.
And he's mentioning cosmic ethers in this process.
A little louder.
He's mentioning cosmic ethers in that process. And another thing which I want to ask you, basically, that would you say that in that higher process we can make analogy between the minor initiation which are going on before the major initiation? As you know, we have 4 minor initiations on the astral plane. And as we go higher by analogy again, maybe this can clarify certain matters.
Because what we're looking at right now on Earth is sort of potential for 7 minor initiations. Now, let's say that in writing one book, DK has written many books. He wrote Cosmic Fire. If you put it together in the right way, you've got a lot of books out of that one book. In order to be a successful planet, how many initiations does our planetary logos have to take in this solar system? And I will advance to you the number 5. That our planetary logos, if he can become a master logos, beyond being a non-sacred planet and all that, he has made a success of this solar system. And you're all involved. Every one of us is involved in that. And why is it that this is so? And I'll just say, because the planetary logos is the base of the spine center to the solar logos, which has profound implications for what's going to go on our very...
It affects the whole system.
Yeah, for the whole system, yes. Then, of course, there are other planets that have the Kundalini going, but we are the base of the spine.
But important is that our planet is in that process, which is the base.
Exactly. And yet, we're not very far developed yet. We have 4 more cosmic initiations to go. So where is then Sanat Kumara's Ajna Center? Where are you as a member of the new group of world servers? It's just the beginning. So let's see, Asha, you wanted to say or ask something.
This is a paragraph that I have to say. Please forgive me for asking this because I'm going to ask a very simple question. From your class identifying as being, everything we've talked about, all these words, none of this belongs to the absolute, because the absolute is beyond experience, beyond the vocabulary. And I want to know, is there a super accelerated path, the way that Dwayne Carpenter, when he talked about that,
Yeah,
there's like the circular motion, the other motion,
spiral cyclic and
then there was that
progress onward. Yeah, 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 yeah,
with that visual that he had.
yeah.
Is there not is there a way to bypass this, a shortcut, whatever?
Well,
Not that there's any need to, because this is all.
you're there already. Look, Asha.
I mean, you can't experience the absolute because it is, but
You can't experience the absolute at all. Well, here's the thing. Well, look, we can't answer these questions, and there's not a there's not a being in our universe that can answer those questions. And I have a good reason for saying that.
People in the history of mankind that have done that super accelerated time, and they've done that new notion.
Well, look, let me be practical first before becoming outrageous. In our solar system, love is the fastest way. Yes, absolutely. If you try to do it with will without love, even the Christ has to be reinforced by the will factors in order to become successful in his mission. Because after all, he's working on a first-ray monad planet. That's ours. But what we're all working on, let's be honest about it, we're working on the soul level. And the Christ is working to draw forth the soul power, second-ray power of the planet. And he's already proven it. Nobody has made the kind of progress that the Christ has made, or that Lord Maitreya has made. You know what his name means? Maitreya. By the way, in the Upanishads, he's everywhere. Yeah, in the Upanishads, he's all over the place. I think he's a she at that point, and she is answering all these philosophical questions and posing things. He has a huge training in India, obviously, my Treyi. So it means loving kindness. That's what his name means. Maitreya, loving kindness. So there's no faster way in our solar system and on our planet than loving kindness. Now, that will not be the case in the next solar system. It will always be a little bit the case, and you know why? Because our solar god will always have a second-ray soul, at least while he's this solar god. Right now, our solar god has a second-ray personality also, but that will not be the case in the next solar system. And our solar god is essentially a big heart center in a still greater being. So love is always the way for us. Whether or not we say, I have this ray, I have that ray. No, I am will, I am whatever. No. Everything else is a sub-ray of the ray of love, wisdom.
How does studying all this detail, all this incredible wealth of information, which I deeply revere, help me deal with my inner rubbish that needs to be alchemically transmuted so I can get to this?
I think there's a lot of
inner stuff. How does that?
It does help. Look, on page 518, I'm going to turn to it because I find myself, and and of course this has a lot to do with the world servers. I'm sorry. Yes, it does, but this book just happens to be discipleship in the New Age. Now, I just want to read it to you. So many of us are on the second ray, but we might not even recognize each other because there are three divisions of types on the second ray, and DK even hints at 7. So I just want to read this because in the new group of world servers, you're going to find so many people for whom love wisdom is a really important thing. But there are all kinds of practical people, first ray, government, finance, and science, and all those hardline things. You absolutely need these people. Now let me read this to you, which I find absolutely essential if you want to know.
The very fundamental references.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to know how to get there, sometimes you use, like when you're really healing somebody, you've got to know how the disease works. And DK is a master healer. You got to know the detail. And sometimes, if you're on the first ray, essentially, you don't need to know all the detail. You just throw the vitality into the person and they live or die. It's like that. So there are different ways of healing. But this is, just always go back to this page to find out who is the Christ, who is the Buddha, who is Master DK. Remember that as Arya Sangha, we learned that with the Dalai Lama, in all those books they had printed up at the Kalachakra, that Arya Sangha communed with the Lord Maitreya in the Tushita heavens. So already Master DK, who was Arya Sangha, has had a direct contact with the Christ in a very, very high place. I was grateful for the Dalai Lama to provide some of that information, but you needed Alice Bailey's information to make the connection. Now, here we go. And so let's just think about this and how we want to serve. I do want to just say one thing. The new group of world servers is going to be a fantastic serving body, but it's not yet really running on all cylinders, and it may be a long time before it can be the true intermediary between hierarchy and humanity. And this Ajna function, this is so important. What does an Ajna do? Just study all the things that an Ajna center does for a human being. One of the things that it does is when the Kundalini comes all the way up, over the head, and down, the Ajna center directs the movement of all of that vital energy in the body. The director of movement. It's a director. It's a first ray center also. It's a fourth ray center after it's a fifth ray center. And it's even a sixth ray center on the astral plane. I know this all detail. Look, if you don't like details, oh, God help you with Master DK, because he's the detail guy, you know what I mean? He is the one who's going to give you more than you ever wanted to know about every subject. Okay, now I'm going to get old what's his name out of the way here. Okay, those upon the second ray fall as you know, into two groups. Now remember, so many of you are second-rate types. So this is about you. Those upon the second rate fall, as you know, into two groups, generally speaking. There are naturally numerous exceptions. Oh, naturally numerous exceptions. But we'll, we used to have a saying in the old seven-ray seminars, if you hear hoofbeats, it's best to think of horses first and wildebeests later. So, just take the Occam's razor, the probability of what you're really dealing with. Souls on the wisdom aspect of the second ray go to Shambhala and join the great council in some capacity or another. Such a one was the Buddha, and that's where he hangs out now, in Shambhala, and descends at great sacrifice to himself every year, if that is still going on. Those on the love aspect of the second ray tread one or other of the various paths, primarily that of the world's saviors. That's the Christ, isn't it? They become the divine psychologists and world teachers. Saviors, psychologists, teachers. Saviors, psychologists, teachers. They're on the love aspect of the second ray. There are people on the second ray for whom everything we're talking about here would make no sense at all and would be considered to be, why do I need this? There's a lot of people in psychosynthesis, for instance. Roberto, he was a brilliant guy, and he always was hiding things. Like he had Cancer rising and Sun in Pisces, so he could be very elusive if he had to be. And he dropped a wall of silence over his psychosynthesis work and the true esoteric roots. Now that naturally brought in two different kinds of people. And the ones that just want to stick with the psychology are threatened by all this occult stuff. And the ones that are into the occultism of Roberto Assagioli say, you have not gone far enough. Look deeper to see where Assagioli really got his material. So, that wall of silence has caused a lot of trouble. Anyway, you become a world savior. Does that appeal to you? You become a divine psychologist. And by the way, watch out for the word divine. Why do I say that? Because
we ain't there yet.
No, you ain't there yet. Well, we're it. Like the kids say when they play hide and go seek, you're it. Divine is the monadic plane and the logoic plane. Those are the two planes of divinity. It's very high level. Very high level. So when he says divine psychologist, the Christ, when he looks at people, is looking right through his monad. He knows the past 5 lives of the woman at the well or something like that. He knows because he's the walking monad walking on terra firma. Okay, the Christ combined in himself all these 3 great traits. So what would you like to say? Christ, I'd like to sit down with you a little bit here. I'm having a few problems. I'd like to review my problems with you and see if you maybe have anything to say about them, Lord Maitreya. And you know what? He just might have something to say about them. So he has this fantastic ability, and it's all summed up in the statement, which would be applicable to the new group of world servers. Christ, he knew what was in man. So short, so simple. He knew what was in man. And what planet is going to allow you to do that, as well as cause trouble? What planet will allow you to know what is in man? Really know, without any blocks. Obviously, you need them all, but Neptune, the great blue planet, so beautifully blue. There was a long time in my life I didn't know how blue Neptune really was. I imagined something and I never looked closely. And when I saw how blue Neptune is, it just had really a profound effect on me. I was thinking about, because I always feel like somehow I belong to that planet, but, on a higher level, not on the normal monadic level. Some of us we have a lot of the intelligence aspect. We've been at it too long, making too many mistakes through the misapplication of intelligence. But Neptune, up there on the logoic plane, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. And Neptune is the solar fire. That's how DK describes it, the fires of, it's particularly linked to solar fire, and it's very blue. Yeah. You know what Henry Ford said? They came to him and said, look, people would like to see a little more variety in the Model T Ford here. And, it's getting a little boring. Yeah, you don't want to say that to him too strongly. He was Leo and pretty first rate. He said, well, that's okay. I mean, any color is okay as long as it's black. And that's how he wanted to keep the Model T. And a lot of us get identified with a certain color, a certain quality, whatever it is. There's a lot of green people running around. Isn't it interesting when they do those movies, the people from Mars are green? Mars has a lot of the third ray. It's the astral body of a great third ray entity. Page 99 in Esoteric Psychology 2. And the Earth is the physical body, and Saturn is the mental body. Well, anyway, we live in a blue solar system. What's the name of our sun god? What's he called? What's our sun god called in terms of color? Yeah? The blue logos, right? The blue logos, how wonderful. And that right away tells you that Neptune is really in there, important to our Davidic solar system with its 140 billion Deva units, and it's only 60 billion human units. All right, so anyway, here you are. You're going to be a world savior. Great. You're going to be a divine psychologist. Not bad. And you're going to be a world teacher. That's pretty good too. All right. Thus, now here comes this is the thing. Those in the second group of souls upon the second ray likewise fall into two groups. They follow, now here comes Master DK telling about himself. They follow the way of specialized detail and of a comprehensive inclusiveness, and are the outstanding occultists. The other group, when you divide the second group into two, is distinguished by pure love. Now that's the Christ group, obviously, isn't it? Of the group which finds its way into Shambhala, which he really said, look, you've got to find your way into Shambhala because you are a first-ray monad. He hinted all over the place that this man who failed so badly was a first-ray monad. Okay. That simplicity finds its way into Shambhala. A developed simplicity will be found to govern all relations. Simplicity and unity are related. You know what it says, synthesis anyway is, and unity has to be created. Simplicity is one-pointedness of outlook, free from glamour, and the intricacies of the thought-form-making mind. Simplicity is clarity of purpose and steadfastness in intention and in effort, untrammeled by questioning and devious introspection. It's as if Master DK knows the human psyche. And so many of us disciples were caught in devious introspection. Okay. Simplicity leads to simple loving, asking nothing in return. Simplicity leads to silence, and silence as an escape, not silence as an escape mechanism, but as a occult retention of speech. And then he goes on to advise this man who, he was a Gemini, just like Alice Bailey. He had Leo rising, just like Alice Bailey. And a bunch of those disciples had the Taurus moon. It's amazing how many of those disciples had that very stubborn, resistant, hard to change Taurus moon. This was one of them. And Foster Bailey too, and I think William Miller, a bunch of them. Anyway, be simple, and then you'll do what I say, and write on Shambhala, but he didn't do it. He instead wrote another sixth grade book. You can't, when you open the book, it almost takes you off the ground. It's so sixth grade. You find yourself levitating just a little bit, hovering above the ground by a few inches. It is so zoom, like that. Anyway, Ajna Center. So, the new group of world servers is just beginning. We're in on the ground floor. Just 100 years. Millions of years went before. We can direct humanity onto a better path through this. An enlightened path through Taurus. A path of the soul through Venus. A de-glamorized path by using the forehead and Venus and Taurus. And we can, now Taurus itself is associated with the fifth ray, but what is Taurus's ray at this time? Some of you know this. Fourth, it's the fourth ray. And beauty and sound and harmony and all of the building and the new Renaissance. Just imagine, do you think that Taurus will play a role in the new and coming Renaissance in a fourth ray age? So, and we servers, I've never quite felt comfortable calling myself a server. I don't know, never completely comfortable, because I just realize there's so much to do and so far to go. But let's just say we servers, we purify ourselves, we observe with accuracy. You know how the fifth ray type really looks at things. You've seen that, haven't you? Like I think both Charles Leadbeater and Annie Besant had a fifth ray mind. So he says, please do these psychic things. Only use the fifth ray. So here's the picture of the pharaoh. A snake is coming out of his forehead, and then it shines on whatever he's looking at. The power of observation. Yeah. So those things are possible to us. But what do we do to help Sanat Kumara develop his Ajna Center? A helpful suggestion from some well-meaning disciple. As DK says, when you empower a word, we don't need a suggestion from some well-intended disciple who emphasizes the power of the word. But how can we help? See, first of all, group number 2. Get rid of your glamours. That's the hard part. Is something happening? I think I'm over time.
Yes.
And any minute now I ought to hear out of that box, yes, Michael, you are over time. Anyway, look, the better we do in becoming the observer, the seer of reality, the one who gets rid of glamours, gets rid of illusions, the faster Sanat Kumara coordinates his Ajna Center. And when he has done that, the power of light and of love will really pervade the planet. But we have a role to play, don't we?
Yeah, we have to take at least Jewish initiation.
I would say, it'd be nice. Did you say the third? I was thinking the third initiation will give us something.
Second and third.
Yes, will give us light. We need light. And we're so lucky with DK. Look how much light he's carrying. Now, I always feel bad because, like I say, my parents were not Gemini. By the way, I've noticed a lot of marriages between Leos and Capricorns. Now you kind of wonder who gets the worst of it. But it's astonishing. I keep on seeing that combination worked out. The lion and the unicorn, Now, I just want to, if there's something you all have to go to that I'm missing, like some, great meal or a concert or something, you just go ahead. I'll talk to myself. I'm perfectly happy talking to talking to myself. I want to ask the group that is here, thinking about your own Ajna Center, its state of development. By the way, the DK only at one time gave a critical analysis to a third ray man of how unfolded his various chakras were. And yeah, the fifth ray and the Ajna Center, because he says, look, you've got so much mentality. It's safe for me to develop psychism in you, because the higher type of psychism is depending on this, right? But he was rather low when it came to this. His solar plexus was about 60%. One was 75%, one was 60%. I forget, you've been studying.
I was 15 only.
Oh, it was very low, yeah. Well, maybe we too, we have not approached the third initiation. Maybe we too have a higher psychism which is not really functioning yet the way it should. What do we do? And a diet is part of it. Exercise is part of it. There's a story about the black bull and the white bull. And basically, you start out with the black bull, which is the personality filled with instincts.
And I think that would be the case for those who are capable to take the second and third in one life. This process.
Okay, and he says, look, go to the bottom of page 84 in Initiation Human and Solar and read how the second, third, and fourth are usually taken in the same life or the next life. I mean, can you imagine passing through all of that in such a short time? I know people are eager until they have to do it. So there's 40 of us over here, and I realize I've been going on and on. Is there anybody in the attendee group? Because I get the feeling that my class wants me to stop talking. So is there anybody that has a question or a question mark, whatever it may be, something to answer, something to comment on, and you'd be perfectly welcome. By the way, do we have another one of these webinars coming up in just a few minutes?
Yes, we do.
Ah, a voice from beyond. Okay. Is there any question? Well, we can start a little bit later. Is there any?
Michael, dear, you should have a break now.
The voice of the goddess. What can I say?
Yes, the voices of the goddess, the Holy Spirit speaking here. Over.
What did she say?
Holy Spirit speaking.
Oh, okay. Over and out. Are there any questions? Dear, I'm almost there. Are there any questions? I hope this was. Remember, here's what we're doing. We start with the human being. How does the Ajna Center work? There are 4 divisions in the Ajna Center and 4 colors. There's yellow, there's rose, there's blue, there's violet. Every one of those has to be a different method of service in Sanat Kumara and a different kind of person. Okay, so just make it.
Rose's hand.
Whatever happens to a human being will happen to Sanat Kumara in a larger sense, and he's not there yet. And what can we do to help? Become the true observer of our life, the trained observer. And what seed group is that? C group 2, study in C group 2 to get rid of duality and merge in contemplation with the object of your contemplation. Then you become the true observer, and you'll help Sanat Kumara in some little way get his development of that center together. Now, when Sanat Kumara develops the base of the spine center fully, it means that the fifth cosmic initiation is about to occur on our planet, and it means that the solar logos can take his fifth cosmic initiation and become a master logos in this solar system, and instead of having to wait for the next one. Now, I know, and if that is clap and get them off the stage. Look, if that is something that works for you and interests you, then so much the better. Okay, some of you may be interested. The room here in the Temple of Silence is rapidly emptying with.
Because there are cakes.
Oh, there's some kind of cake and coffee there. Okay, I figured there was an esoteric reason. Look, we're not going to begin until a quarter after, if that's okay. Tuya,
Thank you.
is that okay with you? I always check with my wife. There's one question from Aunt Veronica. Why only 4 divisions? 4 must have missed something in the esoteric healing. All 7 rays. Look, don't rush it. We're only in the 4th round. We're only on the 4th globe of the 4th chain. And one day, all 7 will be represented if we go as slowly as we're going now. In the next, did you notice, Aunt Veronica, how so many of the chakras are multiples of 4? You notice that? Okay, not the solar plexus so much, or the sacral center, but the heart center, 3 times 4. How many chakras how many petals are there in the spleen? Is it 6 or is it 6?
I am not sure, but
or is it 8? Okay, look, go to the throat center, 4 times 4. Go to the Ajna center. By the time you finish with it, you're going to have a good number, I think. Divisible by 4. 98. Divisible by 4.
It is good to check cosmic fire where he's going into this with the numerology, and it's not an easy matter.
No. But here's my point, and this is something that anybody who leaves the room is going to miss. That in the next round, the base of the spine center will have 5 petals. Multiples of 5 will determine do I hear a reaction? Multiples of 5 will determine the numbers of petals in the chakras. And who knows what might happen after that. So the planetary logos has got it all worked out numerologically. And Veronica, we didn't miss anything with this number 4. It's just the stage at which we find ourselves. Okay? I hope that's clear. I was shocked when I read about 5 petals. Okay, now here is Rose, and Rose, if you speak slowly and with fair volume, I might hear you. The rest of the people are leaving, even some of your friends, but don't take it personally.
Rose, you're self-muted. If you want to talk, you have to unmute yourself.
Well, greetings from New York. I'm at the Life Bridge Festival retreat here, and we are linking with all the other esoteric groups around the world for this week, forming
Yes.
one subjective unity. And my question is, you mentioned that DK was it Ashura Sangha? And I just wanted
Surya Sangha.
Ashurya Sangha, where does
Arya
that
Sangha.
come from?
Arya
Where does
Sangha.
that
Occult
Arya
rumor
Sangha? Where
has
does
it.
that
Occult rumor has it.
occult rumor?
Yeah, here's what it is. His teacher was Nagarjuna, Master KH. That's pretty well established, and they've been operating together for a long time. And it's the noble community of the Buddha. That's what that word means. And one of his incarnations is frequently said to be the close associate of Master KH, who is pretty well confirmed as Nagarjuna. And if you go back to Pythagorean times, they worked together again. And what we had there was Cleinias, known as the just Greek, and he was the second in command to Pythagoras. So they've been working together under different names and in different places for a long time. So I'm willing to hold that as a hypothesis, thinking that it's probably pretty likely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And please, our love to everybody there in the Light Bridge group, and successful communications to you with everybody, and we'll all be tuning in with each other at various times. We did last night with the 2025 group. It was a lovely get together and affirming many things. So I think the internet has made this particular gathering even more effective than the previous one in 2012. I think we're taking a good advantage of the possibilities. So let's just continue to do that. So all the best and a lot of love to everybody there. And we'll be tuning in with you and you with us, I know. And we'll get some kind of job done that is reasonable. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you.
Okay, friends, I think, only one soul remains in the room. Everyone else has run away from me. I don't really blame them at all, And here's the story. And somehow I find it very moving, considering the rays involved. Good old Plato, he was the second ray type, and he went on and on and on and on and on in his grotto or his academy or whatever. And gradually, for various, probably less than esoteric reasons, the audience emptied and emptied and emptied, and he was left almost alone. But there was one student who remained and did not leave. And you know who that was? Aristotle. Aristotle. And I thought, oh my God, what a wonderful example of the blending of the second and the third rays. Aristotle on the third, 3 and 6, and Plato on the second ray, 2 and 4, and so forth. And I thought, well, the ashrams can get together, and the new group of world servers is really helping that under the new Buddhic regime, which allows the blending in harmony of the different ashrams. Now, my wife has come to the door, and that means that I have almost no more chance to continue to talk to myself. So, okay, look, I'm sending this off. It'll be converted, and we'll have it on the Makara website and eventually on YouTube and so forth. And if anybody may be interested in this discussion,
Michael,
then
Michael, don't Sorry. Don't worry about converting yours right now. We don't want to interrupt the next one. I will convert mine and post my copy until such time as you can send me yours.
Yeah, it's true. I don't jump on it right away. Now look, I'm giving you and giving me a little bit of extra time, okay? Because obviously this has gone on, and I didn't even have a chance to go through all of these different things that the Ajna Center does. But let's just say if the Ajna Center does it for the human being, it does it in a much larger way for Sanat Kumara. And basically, I see that I actually have dealt with quite a few of these things. So, okay, what is the next webinar about?
The next one is study and reflection on the new group of world servers in the year 2025.
Oh, people ought to have a lot to say about that. That's good. Okay, look, we'll be back in 10 or 15 minutes, right? So right now I couldn't get the people back in this room if I tried, not so much because of me, but because of the chocolate cake and coffee. So, you know, these are compelling reasons. Thank you, everybody, for being with us, and many blessings to everybody. And let's just continue, you know. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper. Let's just continue. Okay, see you soon, and I'll turn on the other link, right, BL? There's another link here.
Turn this off completely, back out completely, go to webinar, and
Right,
then
okay,
go back in.
I'll put on the other link.
And yes, it is
And
another
the other
link.
link ends with the word, with the numbers. What does the other link end with?
2025.
Got it. It ends with the numbers 769 or 692769. That's the other link. That's the one that's coming up. Okay. See you soon, everybody. And thank you for being here. We all in our own way, we're doing what we can to go deeper and help the hierarchy more thoroughly, as little as it counts. Okay, and my wife has just turned into a football coach, and she gave me the timeout sign, you know, something like this. So see you soon. Okay, bye everybody. You are recorded, my dear.